Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. So today I am back to do another Herstoryathon video talking about the readathon that myself and Brittany over at Literally Smitten host every March, which is celebrating Women's History Month, and we challenge you to read at least one book that is about a real woman who existed. It can be fiction or non-fiction, but this woman does have to have existed in the past, or maybe still living. But this is going to be a Herstoryathon video with a bit of a twist, because something to say about March is that March is jam-packed full of amazing readathons and different reading events. And I was very much inspired by Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading, who did a really great video going through all of the different readathons that are happening in March. And it just kind of inspired me to do a video where I would recommend a couple of books for these different readathons that are not Herstoryathon, but with my recommendations I'm blending Herstoryathon with that different readathon so that they are appropriate for both. As I say, there are quite a few readathons in March, so I better get straight into the recommendations. First off, of course, every year we have the Irish Readathon, inspired by the fact that the 17th of March is St. Patrick's Day. This is hosted by Leanne Rose, Aoife from Words of Clover, and Lisa from Lisa in Bookland, with the challenge being that you would read books by Irish authors. And trying to think of how I would blend Irish Readathon in with Herstoryathon was a little bit difficult for me. I'm not necessarily thinking that all of these recommendations have to be something that I have read, but I do feel like have to combine the readathons very well. And it just, made me realise how lacking my Irish history knowledge actually is. Even more surprising considering that I do have Irish heritage, my last name is Irish, and yet my knowledge is really lacking. I have previously read Walpole's Queen of Comedy by Suzanne Bloxam, which is about Elizabeth Farren, who is an 18th century Irish actress. However, I don't believe that Suzanne Bloxam is Irish herself, so I wanted to find something different. The first book that I found was Rocking the System, Fearless and Amazing Irish Women Who Made History by Siobhan Parkinson. Stories of 20 Irish feminists who rocked the system and changed history, going from Grania O'Malley to Eileen Gray, and covering stateswomen, artists, writers, activists and rebels of all kinds. The next recommendation is on a very similar vein, and it is Through Her Eyes, A New History of Ireland in 21 Women by Clodagh Finn, from the oldest woman in Ireland whose bones were found beneath the Polnabrone Dolmen, I've definitely pronounced that wrong, I'm so sorry, to the modern day founder of the 3D printing company. This book introduces us to amazing women whose stories were shaped by the centuries in which they lived. This is definitely a combination I'm not entirely happy with my recommendations, and I really would love to get some great biographies written by Irish authors, and preferably about Irish women. So please do leave any recommendations that you have down below. The next readathon is March Mystery Madness, the challenge being to read a little bit more mystery than you normally would, and this is hosted by so many different co-hosts, and I'm just going to link them down below for fear of missing out anybody. And for this I wanted to offer one of fiction and non-fiction, and actually they've ended up being a pairing because they are both about Agatha Christie. The first being The Christie Affair by Nina de Gramont, which looks at a notable incident in Christie's life in which she ended up disappearing for a few days, and this is trying to trace the how and why. The other book I wanted to mention is non-fiction, so yes, not quite mystery, but it is, mystery adjacent, and it is Lucy Worsley's recent biography of Agatha Christie. I've heard nothing but good things about this one, so if I'm looking to learn more about her life, then I'll definitely check this one out. Hello friends, Editing Charlotte here, because I've actually managed to find a fiction mystery book that also works for Herstoryathon. I think because this one's just a little bit newer, this one didn't come to mind straight away, but I definitely have heard Katie over at Books and Things talking about it, and it is Miss Austen Investigates by Jessica Bull. So this is definitely fiction, but taking the premise of Jane Austen being a detective and the way that she would work out a crime with the same kind of enthusiasm as Catherine Morland from Northanger Abbey, and this just seemed like really good fun and fits in with Herstoryathon because it includes a real life woman who lived in the past. So I feel like this fits a little bit better for March Mystery Madness than the biography, but pick and choose. The next readathon is March of the Mammoths, which is hosted by Jason at Old Blues Chapter and Verse, and this one almost tripped me up because I've always thought that March of the Mammoths was about just generally reading big books, and I didn't realise that there was a page restriction on it. I thought it would be like 500 pages, 600 pages, and I was thinking, oh yeah, there are loads of like really big chunky biographies that I can go to for this. But no, upon further inspection, March of the Mammoths challenges you to read books that are over 800 pages long, and I was like, And then suddenly all of these chunky biographies that I've always looked at in shops and thought, oh yes, this would be great for March of the Mammoths, they failed me. I looked at Robert K. Massey's biography of Catherine the Great. No, 768 pages. Normal Women, which is currently on my TBR and covers 900 years of history. I thought, surely that will count. No, it's only around 600 pages. Charles Tremlett's massive biography of Isabella of Castile. Nope. In the 600s, the really popular biography of Barbara Pym from a couple of years ago. Nope. In the 600s. I turned to Margaret George thinking of her historical fiction on Elizabeth I, thinking, her autobiography of Henry VIII is like 1,000 pages long. Surely this will not fail me. Nope, not 800 pages. And so I was just like, it can't be done, it can't be done. However, I have found 2 recommendations for you. Firstly, there is Red Comet by Heather Clarke, a biography of Sylvia Plath's life. Heard nothing but great things about this. The reason I haven't read this is well, the fact that it is 1,100 pages long, and also because I don't feel like I've read enough Sylvia Plath to really let this settle in, but I always hear great things about this one. And another one actually comes from my work. The publisher that I work for, Princeton University Press, has published a biography of a woman that is over 800 pages long, and it is Barbara Stollberg Rilinger's biography of Maria Theresa. Once again, another 1,100 page chunky book. So there we go. I did it. It took some effort, but I got there. One that I think you'll be able to fit in very well with Herstoryathon is Fierce Reads, which is an International Women's Day based event hosted by Sandy at Miss Reads a Lot, Shelley at Shelley Swearingen, Kristen from Enter the Book, and Julie from The Hungry Bookworm. My 2 picks for this are Joan by Katherine J. Chen, historical fiction reimagining of Joan of Arc, one that I read last year and really enjoyed. And another great read I had from last year was Disobedient by Elizabeth Freemantle, looking at the life of Artemisia Gentileschi. Both of these wonderfully atmospheric and focusing on some very fierce women who did not let expectations of their gender keep them down. The final official booktube event that I have to talk to you about today is Mill Grade March, hosted by Katie at Life Between Worlds, Krista at Books and Jams, and Amanda at On the Middle Shelf, which challenges you to read a little bit more middle grade than you normally would. So books that are intended at a reading age between 8 and 12. Lots of fantastic picks for this. First off, we have the beautiful Women in series. Lots of different books in this series. So we have women in art, women in science, women in sport. Each book goes through 50 different women in their particular field and how they changed it. The one that I personally own is Women in Science, and I'm very much looking forward to reading it. And the illustrations are just stunning. Another great series that you can go to is the My Story series, one that I remember seeing when I was at school, but I never actually read myself. Little 100 to 200 page historical fictions intended for a middle grade audience, and each one focuses on a different time period and a person who might have lived through that time. I know there are ones for Katherine of Aragon and Elizabeth I, but there are ones that cross all time periods. And then the final book event that I know of happening in March is all to do with the Women's Prize. We have, of course, the Women's Prize for Fiction, which will be announcing its long list in March and is very well established on BookTube as a favourite award. But this year they are also opening up their non-fiction award for the best non-fiction book written in the past 12 months by a woman, which has its long list announced on the 15th of Feb, but the 27th of March is when the shortlist is announced, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But a way that you could tie Herstory into the Women's Prize for Fiction is by reading one of the books that were on its previous shortlists or long lists focused on a real woman in the past. And my 2 options for you today are both from Maggie O'Farrell, and we have Hamnet and The Marriage Portrait, both of which I've enjoyed, set in similar periods. So Hamnet is focusing on Anne, or Agnes Hathaway, the wife of William Shakespeare, looking at their relationship and then flashing forward 11 years to the outbreak of plague that ended up claiming their son Hamnet. The Marriage Portrait conversely looks at the life of Lucrezia de Medici, who ended up marrying Alfonso the Duke of Ferrara, but only a year after they got married ended up dead. And Maggie O'Farrell reimagines this scenario, reimagines Lucrezia's life and what went down. So there we go, those are all of my little recommendations, combining Herstoryathon with all of the other brilliant events that are happening in March. Do let me know which of the March readathons you are going to be participating in this month. I always feel like it's a really inspiring, very vibrant month in BookTube. And yeah, just looking forward to all the great videos that are going to come out. I hope you're all doing really well, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.